Welcome to On the Chain. Chip here. Looks like I'm solo. Jeff may be joining in a bit. We're going to see how that works out, but he may be joining us in just a little bit. So today, July 13th, is the first anniversary of the Judge Torres ruling XRP not a security. That's right. Today, can you believe it's been a year? And what do we see the charts doing? We saw XRP dip. Now it's on a high. It's kind of incredible to see what's actually happened. And then Deaton's challenger, we're going to look at this guy, this fraud, Ian Kane, and we're going to look at him. And he was on the Howie Carr show. And Howie Carr kind of called him out a little bit. We're going to dive into that. But let's just think about it for a second. Let's just sit in this moment and realize that 1 year has passed since XRP got the ruling from Torres, not a security. You guys ready to take off? I know we're a little bit later than usual. A lot later, even by OTC standards. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Welcome to On the Chain, 28 people. I love it. 28 people piled in here. It's always good to see everybody. I know we're late. Today was a weird morning. Got a text from a friend who best buddy since college, and he is rushed into emergency surgery. So if you guys want to send good vibes or prayers, do that. So that's why I run a little late. Jeff's got some other things going on. Seems like we always have something going on at the same time. We think alike, talk alike, and we do not look alike. I have hair, Jeff does not. So there you go. So it's great to see everybody. Hey, everybody, drop where you're coming in from. LFG, let's go. The show must go on. What's up, Dave? Cheltenham, Cheltenham, UK. Go England. That's what I have to say, man. Let's go win that. Oh, win the cup. And destroy all the haters out there. All the haters say you can't do it. Let's do it. Let's get that done. Let's get it done. We got JR coming in. He's in Tampa, right? There you go. And we got Fred Hoffman coming in. Yeah, prayers. Appreciate those prayers, guys. Appreciate that. Yeah, weird kind of a day. G'day, mate. G'day, mate. Willits jumping in here. Way regular. Let's get into some news here. Let's talk about something very important, which I prefaced at the top and the intro, but we're going to talk about what's going on because this is a monumental event. Like, I remember this conversation very clearly last year. I picked up my phone, I saw an alert on it, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, what? And I saw that the ruling had come down, and I called Jeff immediately, and I'm like, Jeff, did you see this? He's like, well, see what? I'm like, XRP ruled not a security. He goes, get the F out. He's like, what? And we had this conversation about it. And we talked for like 45 minutes. We're like digging through it, looking through, okay, we gotta stream tonight. So last July 13th, and I got in touch with John Deaton. I'm like, hey, I know you've been getting hammered all day. I know everybody wants to talk to you. We would be honored if you'd come on the show and talk about this ruling. And he says, of course. And that's just the kind of man he is, right? He's like, of course I'll come on your show and we'll talk about it. Yeah, a show that doesn't have 300,000 subscribers, a show that doesn't have, but this is who John is. He's that kind of an amazing fellow. So it was just a really cool that he actually did that. What's up, Laurel? How are you doing? Good to see you. Kansas in the house. What's up, Kansas? Ron Ward is in here. And then we got Ryan Zook. Something starting to happen this week, Billy. Yeah, there's so much going on. And we keep hearing about BRICS. Oh, BRICS is a threat. These countries are a disaster, right? If you look at everybody in the BRICS alliance, they all got some stuff going on. They can't even agree in their country, but they're going to agree in an alliance that they're going to have this, that they want to take down the dollar. Maybe haters band together. We saw it happen over in France, when Macron was on his way out. He went to the extreme left party and said, hey, let's be bedfellows because we got to take out, Le Pen. So we're going to figure out a way to like band together. And it's like, so this does happen. You do have the evil ones will sort of band together to push forward an agenda. But it's going to be, Le Pen should have picked up more seats. The bottom line is, I think the writing's on the wall of where we're headed, right? We saw it happen in the Netherlands. We're seeing it happen in a lot of other places too. It's bubbling up. in different places. Now, on the other hand, you got the UK, which is going backwards, but it has to go backwards to go forward, pretty much like the US. It has to take 3 steps back before it can take another 2 steps forward. And I think the way it's going to go there is that the Tories were such a disaster after 12 years. The Tories were, and I tell this to my English friends, that people are like, well, they're the conservative party. I go, by whose standards, right? By my standards, they are the Democrats over here. And if you want to go, the Labor Party is further to the left. So there is no conservative party in the UK. Oh, I'm sorry, there is. There's UKIP, okay? And then you have Nigel Farage. So Nigel Farage finally he's going to be, he's in Parliament. And one of the cool things that's going to happen there is he's going to be the next leader, because they're going to go so far off the cliff. They're already putting some ideas forward that don't really make any sense. So, England wanted to be, especially London specifically, were trying to attract builders. They wanted it to be a hub for cryptocurrency, right? They wanted to, hey, let's be, what Silicon Valley was. Let's be what Silicon Valley was to, the US. But let's do that for crypto, right? And Miami, you saw that Miami had a little piece of that, where you see a lot of builders move to Miami, and they all left California. California, high taxes, bad, even in San Francisco, which used to be phenomenal. The last time I was there, and that was like 2 years ago, it was a mess. And it's I have a friend who lives out there. It's even worse now. It's just, when you say that you can take anything under $1,000, and we're going to look at you, we're not going to go after you. There's not good policies, and it destroys businesses. Now they want to tell businesses they can't stay open all night, right? They have to close down between, like, I think it's like 1 and 4. There's a new proposal that they're passing over there. So instead of doing right by these businesses and saying, hey, if you take a dollar item, if you take a $4 item, you're going to be prosecuted, right? Shoplifting. But no, they go after the businesses instead. And we see this from the administration. And companies that are trying to make it, companies that are going out of business. I have some close friends that are struggling with businesses at a point where they have to go bankrupt, right? They're worried about laying their employees off. But instead of talking about inflation and taking responsibility for the problems you created, what do? They go after the businesses. The businesses are the ones at fault. The businesses are the ones that are creating all this. And the boxes are packaging is getting smaller. The items are costing more money. Sure, it's because the greedy businesses, right? The greedy businesses want to stick it to you. That's not the case at all. They're just trying to keep their head above water, right? Because all the costs are going up everywhere. Of course, their products have to go up as well. It's happening across the board. It's happening in software world too. The world that I work in, it's happening everywhere. We are seeing premiums, 15%, 20% increases over the previous year. So this is not something that's new. Football's going home. Football's going home, baby. There you go. Reform Party. There you go. Steve Walker. And hello, everyone. There's Anna. Coexist Crypto. What's going on? Unfortunately, what California does, certain other states adopt this policy within a few years. Well, the blue states are failing miserably. Look at Chicago. Look what's happening in New York, and then look at happening in San Francisco. It's just, and the funny thing is the governor moved out of San Francisco, okay, or Sacramento. He left Sacramento, which is the capital, and he had to, instead of staying in the capital like a governor will do, he wanted to move somewhere else for his kids so they could go to better schools. So rules for we, not for thee, right? This is kind of like the rallying cry that we see over and over again. But let's talk about this amazing day that we have before us. And this is the 1-year anniversary of XRP, Judge Torres ruling, the Torres Doctrine, as we started referring to it around here, that XRP is not a security. And in fact, here it is right here. Stu Alderati, general counsel for Ripple, said some reflections as we approach the 1-year anniversary of Judge Torres's summary judgment decision in the SEC v. Ripple lawsuit. First and foremost, it was a watershed moment to find, as a matter of law, a token, in this case XRP, in of itself, not a security. And the decision led to a spate of others, most recently in the Binance case. That was another phenomenal ruling that weighed heavily on what happened with Ripple, that reorganized the SEC's gross overreach and lack of faithful allegiance to the law under Chair Gensler. And the courts have provided much needed check on the SEC's behavior, but clarity on the token by token basis, though interminable litigation is unacceptable. Policymakers on both sides of the aisle are getting increasingly frustrated of the lack of legislative process, and crypto in the US continues to fall behind the rest of the world. Well, I will dispute this sentence. Policymakers on both sides of the aisle, that's a big negative. When you're on the left side of the aisle, you say on both sides of the aisle, they are doing their best to try to do it. But when you're sitting on the other side of the aisle, you think, well, no, there's outside of guys like Richie Torres, no relation to Judge Torres, but guys like Richie Torres who are pro crypto, who have stuck their neck out for, reaching out there defending Israel, counter to the party, and have, you get on the chopping block when you disagree with your party, you speak out. There are some others too, Darren Soto out of Central Florida, but there's very few that are very pro. You got Ro Khanna, who just led that roundtable last week. Ro Khanna he's out of California, and then he had everybody that was invited to that were pretty much on the left. So they had a big roundtable where they're going to sit and talk about policy. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Conversations are great, but what's better? When you actually author a bill and you actually put it up for a vote and you get it out of committee and you put it on the House floor, you voted for it, and then you get it out of the House and you bring it to the Senate, right? That conversations, let's workshop it. Let's talk about it. Talk is what we do on this show. We talk about stuff, right? We're not authoring bills. But if you're in Congress, your job is not to talk about it and, rub each other's back and feel good and like, look at all the great people we have here. We got Mark Cuban here. Mark Cuban likes, he loves, he's a big, big fan of crypto. Okay, well, great. I love conversations, man. But, conversations are just that. Let's do something. So Stu goes on to say, while our case isn't fully over, remedies still to be decided, the court's ruling that XRP is not a security will not change. Even the SEC told the court it will not challenge that conclusion. So I look at that as a win of itself. The fact that the SEC, because every step of the way they countered everything Ripple did. Ripple wrote a letter. They responded with a counter argument. And then Ripple filed it, and they responded. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't fight that because they know it's over. It's established, and they know it's going nowhere. And it would just be humiliating to go back and sort of try to relitigate that, right? Try to go back. And so this is where Binance has Ripple to thank in this case, right? So now there's two big losses that they have back to back to back. And he goes on to say, don't be distracted by the SEC's continued efforts to mire Ripple and the industry in the litigation trenches. That runway is running out for the SEC. Ripple and the entire industry has and will emerge stronger long after Gensler is gone. And this is phenomenal, right? This whole idea that Gensler thought he was going to go on a mission. And in the Chevron doctrine, right? The Chevron that was just overturned, I don't think people have even begun to understand how incredible this is going to be, because what Chevron's basically said was, when it was enacted in 84, when the ruling came down, it allowed whatever government body or agency to interpret the law to say, okay, well, it says if they do this, then this, and they would read between the lines and they would start making up rules. They would start making up new decisions. They would start writing new stuff, but it wasn't in the legislation that Congress passed. So overturn of Chevron is massive, because now every court case, anytime something's disputed, they're not going to refer back to what the agency said. They're going to refer back to exactly what is in the legislation, in the law, what was passed. Does it say that? It doesn't say that you're able to do this. Here's another one. When you think about the recent hearing where the SEC official was getting raked over the coals about talking about climate change. Now, explain to me, and this is what I forgot who was being interviewed, but I think it was a Republican, an SEC official. I was one of the, can't think of her name at the time, but anyway, it was saying like, hey, tell me, what does climate change have to do with the SEC, right? It's not even in your main doctrine. So when they start making up these goofy rules, and because of their leftist agenda, because of their feelings, I feel good. The whole world's going to collapse, and whatever it is, it has no bearing on what the SEC. The SEC is supposed to regulate markets, right? It's supposed to regulate security. It's supposed to look out for the investor, it has nothing to do with climate change. So rightfully so, this was put forward, and we're going to see this kind of come up. We haven't really seen it bubble up. I know some people have covered it a little bit here and there, but I think the long-lasting effect is going to be great for the crypto community, because guess what? What are you going to bring it back to? 1933, 34, securities laws? You're going to bring it back to the Howey? That's it. That's all you have to rest your head on. So when the SEC starts making rules, what are the rules based on? And where's the legislation that it's based in, right? This is where these are going to start falling apart, because all they have to do is contest this. Like, hey, where's your power to overturn it? Gensler has been leveraging 33 and 34 securities. They go back to the Howey test. But that's it, okay? But does that really cover a digital asset? I mean, the FIT 21 did get passed, but guess what? That was over a month ago, 5-6 weeks ago, and what happened? It's dead in the Senate, right? And will it get even signed? If it goes to the president's desk, will it get signed? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know that it does, quite honestly. So that was it. And what he was referencing, this is his post from last year, July 13, 2023, said a huge win today as a matter of law. XRP is not a security. Also, as a matter of law, sales on exchanges are not securities. Sales by executives, not securities. Other XRP distributions to developers, to charities, to employees are not securities. So it's a big day. We have a lot to celebrate. Price, well, I don't know. There's a little bit of a bump. It went from sub 40 cents, and it went over 51 last time I saw it, checked on it. Look at this right here. Rough Rican. Appreciate that, man. Thank you. Always one of the biggest supporters on this show. Really appreciate you, man. First anniversary of XRPs. Congratulations to everyone hodling XRP. I like what you did there. The hodling. Good. Hold. Beautiful. Thank you, man. Appreciate you, Rican. Mark Smithson. Recent XRP price action made me imagine what will be, unburdened by what was. If you feel my drift, I do feel your drift. And I have asked people to watch that 4-minute video. Nobody can get through it. They're like, sorry, I had to bail at 2 minutes. Sorry, I bailed at 30 seconds. It's Kamala Harris, Vice President of the United States. That's right. Saying that over and over again on different occasions. She just fell in love, with that phrase. And, I always thought that when Barack Obama, who was a gifted speaker, who was great at enrolling people in a vision, right? Bringing people to, to like one common goal. He was pretty brilliant, because his insurance policy was Joe Biden. Okay. Joe Biden's insurance policy was Kamala Harris. So it's like, these guys sort of think alike. You think like, well, Biden's not that smart. Biden's a lot smarter than you give him credit for. He knew exactly what it was. They took a page from Barack's book when he's like, I was the insurance policy before. And now it looks like Kamala is the insurance policy. And the funny thing is, they want him to step down. If he steps down, they're in a quagmire. They are, no matter what they do, it's not going to be favorable. Joe says he's not going. The only way they can remove him legally is 2 ways. At the convention, the delegates can vote for somebody else. It's possible. I don't know that will happen, because there's going to be supporters here and there. I don't know if there'll be enough delegates. The other way is the 25th Amendment. There's like a clause 2 and 3 in there, and that's a way that he could be removed. But again, that's going to cause a tremendous amount of turmoil in the party. He was okay. He was the greatest person in the world, sharp as a tack. I can't believe how incredibly gifted he is behind the scenes, and the way he talks about policy and everything. And then a week later, oops, what happened? So, we were gaslit for 3 years, saying that it was, he hid in his basement during the last campaign, but we're supposed to magically think, oh, nothing's wrong. And everybody was so shocked. Listen, we were gaslit the whole time. We knew better. We knew exactly what's going on. I want to talk about Garlinghouse. Garlinghouse also weighed in on this, and he kind of quoted and talked about Steve or Stu Alderati. So Stu Alderati, he was referring to or commenting on his tweet. He said, July 13, 2023, that day was a very good day for Ripple and the entire industry. And for me personally, a core memory. We had the conviction to fight the bully that had harassed and executed an unlawful war on our industry. And as I said, when it started, I knew we were on the right side of the law, and I knew we would be on the right side of history. And this is where all the credit goes out to Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, Stu Alderati, Chris Larson. This is where I praise these guys because they didn't bend the knee. Now they could have. They could have bent the knee. They could have absolutely 100% said, you know what? Why don't we just try to settle with them? Well, they did that. They tried to settle with them. And that's how they ended up getting into dropping the lawsuit in 2020, right before Christmas in 2020. People were like, the settlement's coming. The settlement's coming. Garlinghouse said early days that they tried to settle. They attempted to. But they would have had to come out and say that XRP is a security register. Why would they do that? There's never going to be a settlement when you're that far apart. So one of the great things that came out of this is that Ripple taught the industry to not bend the knee, not bow down. There is and challenge this ridiculous, this egregious ruling, or this, I would say, attempt to get a favorable ruling in the SEC. The SEC loses a lot of cases. Ripple had this in their favor. They had something to the effect of sometimes they lose 2 out of 3 cases, 1 out of 3 cases. But you only hear about the ones where they win. You don't hear about the ones where they lose. But what I'd like to see passed in the next administration, I'd like to see something passed that says if a government agency goes after a private citizen and tries to prosecute them, try to rake them over the coals, then if you lose, you have to pay all of their attorney fees plus a fine that will be decided by the courts based on what it was. In this case, the SEC eroded $15 billion in market cap from XRP. It devastated people. Some people had their 401ks in it. Some people, the little guy, the investor, is who they're supposed to protect. And in this case is exactly the opposite of what happened, right? So I would have liked to see with the new legislation passed that if the SEC goes after you and if they lose, they pay all your attorney's fees plus a fine. And if investors were hurt along the way or there was some other damage, they pay them as well. And this is the way you remedy it, right? Some states have this, that if you, and this is because the US can be very litigation heavy. I'll sue you. I was in business. This is how you know you're doing well in business. People come after you and they start suing you for stuff, right? It's just what happens. And there's silly things. You still have to hire an attorney. You still have to go into court. Most of the time it gets dismissed. If you're a good guy, if you're doing bad stuff, obviously, rightfully so. But sometimes you have to show up in court and you're bled all this money. You're paying an attorney $650 an hour. You have a 20-minute phone call that just costs you $200, right? So this is how it works. And the SEC, with most companies, what they try to do is bleed you dry, right? They can make it go on and go on and go on, but who has the fortitude? But who has the money to fight it? Ripple did. It's estimated somewhere between 150 to 200 million is what it cost them to get this ruling, right? And they're still fighting. So they're still spending more money because the case is ongoing. Now, I want to take a second here and I want to say, El Jefe, thank you so much. Trump for crypto. The support is coming on hard and strong today for On the Chain, the show that almost didn't make it on the air today for a series of just miscues and missteps. But I said the show must go on because this is the 1-year anniversary. Al Jefe, you've been amazing here, especially a big supporter here, an OG here. Thank you so much for that. Love the support. Trump for crypto. And you're bringing up a really good point. And here's like an observation. It's really telling on X, formerly known as Twitter, you can tell the people and their stance. You can tell me your politics without announcing your politics. Why? Because I see that the way things are phrased. So the official platform of the Republicans is crypto, pro custody, self custody, right? Pro Bitcoin. Every part of it is exactly everything we want, everything in Fit 21, right? That's the agenda. It's not hearsay. It's not, well, it'd be kind of nice. No, it's official. It's on the platform. And then we have the other side going, it's bipartisan. People on both sides want. No, the party of crypto are the Republicans. And I've said this time and time again, I am an independent because I dislike most of the Republicans because they are feckless cowards and losers. That's what I will say, because they just bend over. And now the Democrats are not like that. What I appreciate about the Democrats is they stay together, they have each other's back, and they fight on. That's how they are. And the Democrats are a lot smarter in some instances than the Republicans. Republicans get power and they squander it. Democrats get power and they hammer it. They figure out a way to push everything through. They don't care. So that's what I will appreciate about the Democrats, the fact that they are a party that does want to keep moving on and have each other's back. Republicans, Trump taught them how to win, and they still go back to their old ways. And it's a little bit on the pathetic side, but what are you going to do? El Jefe for president. There you go, right there, baby. Big Home Roach. What up, brother? Hope everything's doing well. What's up, brother? How you doing? Everything good? Cheap fakes. Yeah. Do you remember the cheap fakes? This is great. So 3 weeks ago, you would show a video, the exact video, no doctoring. Let's face it, there's a lot of memes, there's a lot of, there's a lot of inserting voices and, stuff that is fake, right? Stuff, AI generated stuff. But you'd show him on stage at the fundraiser with George Clooney, with Barack Obama, and Barack has to grab his arm and sort of walk him off stage. Oh my, cheap fake. And the funny thing about it is they were called deep fakes, but I don't know if they made a miscue. The press secretary made a miscue, but they're calling them cheap fakes. That's a cheap fake. And then they were saying, look at this video and look at this one. Well, they look identical. So when he was at the G20 and the parachuters came in, he kind of wandered off, smiling in the distance, and they said, "Oh, that was a cheap fake." But I guess an hour and a half debate with Trump. Well, they can't do that. And you know who they blamed in that one? CNN. I can't believe CNN didn't call out the lies that Trump was spewing. Why? Trump had so many lies. Why weren't they fact checking it? Well, because it's a debate. And the object of a debate is to ask questions and get answers. That was it. And I thought CNN did that very well. Sometimes, even though they lean left, they were actually pretty good at giving the candidates their time and even giving them an extra rebuttal if it warranted, right? You can argue they did a good job. Now, everyone on the left hated it. And people on the right were like, hey, for CNN, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't, I didn't care for the format, but the format was decided on by Joe Biden. And it actually worked really well for Trump. It worked against Biden, right? So, and it's sad for me to see it, really, quite honestly. There's a point of where, and I know this because I'm going through it with my parents right now and a close friend, that when you start losing it up here, you don't know you're losing it. You don't really understand it. It's very tragic for people to witness. But when you start missing out on things and things start dropping out and you say the wrong thing, you say the wrong word, you can laugh at it, you can criticize somebody, but it's sad really when it comes down to it, especially if you've had somebody close to you that's had onset of dementia, Alzheimer's. It's sad to watch somebody fade away because they don't realize it. They don't even know. They might even be confused a little bit. And this is kind of a little bit of what we have going on here. So it's a little bit frustrating to watch. I mean, there's a sense where, okay, the guy's not well. It's it's getting to be a little bit like elder abuse at this point, right? The family should step in and do the right thing. I know there's a lot at stake. I know I've said this for about a year and a half, 2 years. It's documented that I didn't think he was going to be on the ballot. Just didn't think he was well enough. Didn't think he could make the haul, right? We saw signs of decline way back, and even in 2019, 2020. Stuff that he would say in cover for. So I feel like we're getting to a point of where it's time is time, and we're going to see how it rolls out. I just don't see it going in a great place. So we'll have to see what that happens there. I want to show another one. This is another critique, and I want to get your take on this because I saw this today and I thought this is something we should probably talk about on the show. Just looking through the comments here. Good morning. What's up, Ramon? Scotty, G20 annual meeting in August. Yeah, I don't know who's going to be there. That's going to be interesting. So we'll see who's not well. Joe Biden's not well. He's not well. Yeah, that's right. Justin got it right. Yeah, he says he's still up for it. And again, in his mind, he thinks he's okay for it. He thinks he's crushing it. That's the thing. That's the sad part of that disease is it does take that away from you. And it is sad to watch. This was a critique that Money GCC put up here. I don't know if you've followed him for some time, but he said, at this stage of blockchain development, Brad Garlinghouse at Ripple really should reread his own peanut butter manifesto because his own advice of a company spreading itself thin applies. Ripple is at the stage Yahoo moved into to compete with AOL. It's crystal clear that Ripple is trying directly to compete with Circle, obviously with their stablecoin. The difference is that Circle is 5 years ahead because Jeremy Allaire who's the CEO and founder of Circle, has decades of experience in finance, and he knew what customers needed and wanted, but he also know that what they didn't want and what they didn't need and what they didn't know they want. Holy cow, did I read that right? I don't know. The amount of missteps at Ripple, a company I'm actually fond of, it's sad to say at the very least, he said the crazy thing here is that the execs at Ripple are always looking at who is in front of them, never who's coming up behind, consistently marketing themselves as the ones solving the problem, while the builders at Circle and Chainlink have taken major partners and major liquidity without crazy marketing spends. If Ripple doesn't change its ways, it's doomed to a Yahoo fate. Time to change the BS marketing and actually focus on building. Oh, and enough with the riddlers. No one on Wall Street or abroad will take you seriously. I disagree vehemently with that last statement. I love the riddlers. It's one of the reasons I invested in XRP, but that's beside the point. Here's the peanut butter manifesto with commentary. And this guy here, this guy Alexander Jarvis, made some good points too. The peanut butter memo from Yahoo is still relevant. So he put this up. It's a very long read, but he basically goes on. Look at that picture of Brad Garlinghouse. Looks funny. Looks like a different guy. You little young buck. There he is right there. So Garlinghouse was a senior VP from 2003 to 2008. He ran Yahoo's homepage. He ran the Flickr, Yahoo Mail, and their instant messenger program. And what Garlinghouse talks about, some of the key takeaways here. Garlinghouse and that peanut butter manifesto called for Yahoo to sell off non-core businesses and then return to being lean. Could have, should have, would have. No company, no matter. The market position is immune to the bloat of too fast of rapid growth. Yahoo wasted their only advantage of having an early position in the new wave of internet companies, and they were so funded. They were given money hand over fist. Garlinghouse uses a lot of words like power words to seem confident and raise Yahoo's morale, like kill, blow up, execute, seize, and even I bleed purple and yellow. This feels very 2006 as far as exec speak, when aggression was seen as leadership instead of actual intelligence and emotional intelligence. The game plan in the manifesto lays out 3 pillars of an 8 big actionable ideas. And if you need that much of an overhaul, it's time to take a serious look at one of Microsoft's many offers to buy the company. Looking at you, Jerry Yang. And Yahoo failed to implement most or all of the ideas Garlinghouse laid out in the Peanut Butter Manifesto, as evidenced by their eventual shutdown in December of 2020, even after being bought out by Verizon Media. At the core of the issues in the Peanut Butter Manifesto is a culture problem. Yahoo was full of cheerleaders spouting maxims and motivational phrases, but they didn't have the right players on a field for a good team. Even Garlinghouse is part of the problem, using words when a decision would be better. He admits he learned a lot in that piece, and he wrote a 2013 piece called What I Got Wrong with the Peanut Butter Manifesto. So, and then it goes on. Here is the Peanut Butter Manifesto. It's really well summed up in here, but I want to get your take on it. What do you think? What is it a misstep? Do you think that Ripple has spread itself too thin? Are they looking too much in the future, not much as the past, as alleged here? Want to get your thoughts on it. See if anybody has. There you go, right there. Riddlers for life. There you are. That's it, right there. Yeah, that is true. That is a true point. Osman says, I agree, it's sad, but what's really worrying is the day they say a doctor losing his ability to do his job wouldn't be allowed to operate a patient, but Biden in this situation can run the USA. That's the whole thing. See, it's not him stepping down from being the candidate. If he steps down from being a candidate, he also has to step away from being president, right? This is the thing. It's not like, oh, you know what? Because remember, he was only going to run for one term. That was the whole sort of mantra. It was like, hey, just give me one term. We got to stop Donald Trump. Donald Trump is bad. Donald Trump is going to crush democracy. Donald Trump is bad, right? That was the whole thing. And so somebody had actually asked him at the presser that he ran the other day and said, well, you were supposed to only run for one term. Why are you continuing on? And his answer was kind of convoluted, but like, because I'm the only one that can beat him. I beat him in 2020, and I'm the only one, and blah blah blah. So Garlinghouse, at least he penned the piece of what he got wrong in the Peanut Butter Manifesto. He wrote that in 2013. Here's what I got wrong. Everything. I was just looking at it here. I was just going over to it. I don't want to read the whole thing, but It was a memo that he wrote, and it got leaked to the Wall Street Journal, is what he said. How'd you like to go down for being the guy that wrote the Peanut Butter Manifesto? That was his claim to fame at the time before he assumed the CEO role over there at Ripple. He was an EVP over there. La 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 la. So I don't know what he got wrong. What does he say about Steve Jobs here? Sure, one-hit wonders can happen anywhere, but companies that stand the test of time recognize a fundamental truth. Great people build great products, and great people gravitate towards great company cultures. The startup culture that Steve Jobs created at Apple to transform a declining computer manufacturer into a creator of era-defining products is an obvious example. And the other obvious example is nominating the nut job that runs the company now. But this is what you do when you want to protect your legacy. If you want to go down in history as the greatest CEO, founder, mentor of all time, you put a doofus like that in charge. I'm not going to mention names. We all know who we're talking about. But he's, me even being a fanboy of Apple, just really dislike this character. He has zero vision. He's basically like an accountant, right? He gets out there, tries to pretend like he's excited about stuff. Meanwhile, they let Johnny Ive walk. I mean, the guy who was a brilliant designer, and they let him walk. And you see a lot of with Apple devolving as a company. They're not putting anything new out. Any sort of in the updates to the iPhone are nominal. My brother was telling me, he's like, "Hey," I saw him. He says, "Look how great this why do you still have the old iPhone?" I'm like, "Well, give me a reason to buy the new one." He goes, "Look at this little feature." I'm like, "That's useless. What do I, buy a new phone for that feature?" So it's disappointing. You get somebody like that. Although I digress. I get, squirrel. I kind of run off there. Look at this. See, Yeet is right. Look at this. BG123 is an insider. There you go. I always thought BG123 was funny. BG, what does that sound like? Brad Garlinghouse? So that was a good little pick there. Mr. Q says Trump's going to save the economy. That's right. And all this talk about, this is what I love, right? All this talk about Trump is going to crush democracy. Trump is going to do this. I'm like, did these people forget that Trump was president for 4 years? Do they forget that he left the White House? I mean, the thing is that the United States is not a democracy, but everybody on the left calls it a democracy. Well, the democracy, as we've talked about on the show before, is mob rule, right? That's majority rules. So if we look back at when Trump defeated Hillary Clinton in 2016, Hillary Clinton had 4 million more votes than Trump, but she lost. And people are like, well, how do you do that? Well, the Electoral College that was put in place, and that was to protect the minority. That was back in the early days. If you look at a state like Pennsylvania, Philadelphia would choose for the state of who the winner would be, because you had more people there. And so the idea behind the Electoral College was it made it more even. It also, even those states that didn't have a big population and they didn't have as many votes, like say like a Montana, North Dakota, right? They at least had a say versus, you only have 500,000 people there, and you have 15 million to live in city of New York, right? This is what a constitutional republic protects is the minority. It protects the minority, gives everyone a voice. So believe them when they say that Trump is going to destroy democracy. Democracy being mob rule, which is what they love. This is what they love. They want mob rule. They want to shove it down your throat. They want to kick you to the curb. They want to censor everybody, right? They want to destroy your life. They want to tell everybody what to do. And it's not just the U.S. There's another great country called Australia, and this is the same mentality. This is exactly what happens in Australia, right? They want to censor you. They want to tell you what to do. Everything's a privacy grab. They're going to tell you they know better. They're the elites. But they can take their private jets and everything and still cry about climate change. But then they go to Davos and they're like walking around like they're like some kind of a big deal. And they don't practice what they preach. So that's a lot of that going on. It's a little bit sad. What else do we have to talk about? I wanted to put this on here. I know we talked about it in the, let me see if I have to see if I can share the audio. Guys, you're going to have to help me today because I cannot tell. Usually I have Jeff here to tell me if the audio is working. And I don't have him here. So let me go ahead and try to share this. I'm going to play a little bit of this. I'm going to need you guys, as soon as you hear something, there's a little bit of a delay to tell me that you hear it. and then then we'll continue. And then I'll move it to the spot. But I want to highlight this. Let me see. Let me look at this. There we go. Audio is shared. All right. So let's put this on right here. I'm going to make this larger. What just happened? That's not what I was looking to do there. Where is the... How do I make this bigger here? Anyway. There we go. So Howie Carr show, which I've listened to for years. Howie Carr is out of Massachusetts. He runs a conservative podcast radio show, and he had John Deaton on. We played some of the John Deaton when it was on, when the day that it dropped. He also, he gives equal time to all the candidates. There's 3 candidates running in the Republican primary to be the one who's going to run against Elizabeth Warren, right? So it's and the funny thing is, I don't even know the name of the other guy. Like I haven't seen him. I don't know about him. I know that he's been mentioned, but the 2 big ones are John Deaton and this guy, Ian Kane. So let me play a little bit of this. Tell me if you guys hear this. Please let me know if you hear it.
This podcast is brought to you by the Eden Pure Thunderstorm.
Okay, so there you go right there. There's a little bit of it. Does it have a volume on here? Can we turn it up a little bit? Wish it was a little bit louder. Tell me, guys, in the comments. Audio is good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this. I think it starts at the 4-minute mark, but listen in on this thing too, because, what have we said about Ian Kane? That he's an absolute plant, right? He's a fraud. He's only voted for Democrats. He's only supported them he's donated to like 10, 15 Democrats, never voted for a Republican that we can tell. He was unenrolled. If you live in Massachusetts, you can do something called unenroll, which kind of means that you do not decide your... Jeff, are you ready to come in? Let me know. Give me the thumbs up when you're ready to come in. When you get yourself situated over there, you got to give me the thumbs up. Okay, good. Let's bring Jeff in. There he is. What's going on, man?
There I am. What's happening?
Hey, man. Good to have you. We were just going to go launch into the fraud known as Ian Kane, the loser on the Howie Carr show.
Mm-hmm.
Conservative radio show out of there. So I was just going to play a clip of this. But Howie, you got to listen to Howie, man. I love this guy. I really do. Listen, he's not afraid to ask about Ian Kane, the fraud Ian Kane, who's only ever talked to Democrats. And what I was saying was, for 4 years, he unenrolled. So that means no party affiliation. Right. Then he flipped it over to being a Republican, just so he could get in this race. Now, in all fairness, too, John Deaton has been a Democrat, too, but John Deaton's policies and his thinking is all Republican, where this guy, do you know what John Deaton doesn't have photos of? He doesn't have photos of him and Biden smiling and shaking hands together. He doesn't have pictures of him and Warren. He doesn't have pictures of that goofball mayor out of Boston who's nuttier than all hell, supported her. He's got pictures with her, all those pictures, and he hasn't scrubbed his timeline, right? So they're all... But let's listen in, Jeff, and I want to get your take on what he says here. I think it comes in at, let's see, hang on, let's see.
Power plants in the Middle East, North Africa, and East Asia. We're based in Waltham, but we owned plants in emerging markets like Tunisia.
Are John Deaton and
there we go.
But for the first,
it's kind of low, right?
A little bit, but I can hear it. I just turned up my volume.
If for some reason, guys, you want to turn the volume up a little bit. I don't know why it's so low. There's no volume here that I can turn it up.
3 segments of the show tonight. In this hour, we're going to talk to Ian Kane. He is one of the 3 Republican candidates for the U.S. Senate against the fake Indian Elizabeth Warren. And he is the other 2 candidates are John Deaton and Bob Antonellis. They've been on the show. And again, we're going to have a debate between the 3 candidates on August 30th, which is the Friday before Labor Day. We'll be at Cape Gun Works in Hyannis. And from 6 to 7, we'll have the debate between the 3 candidates, just leading up to the primary election on Tuesday, September the 3rd, right after Labor Day. All right, 844-500-4242. So I'm going to start off just by letting Ian Kane introduce himself to you. Give us a short biography.
Sure. Ian. Thanks, Howie. Thanks for having me on. I'd be remiss if I didn't say hello to my mother, who's been a longtime fan and listener. Used to be on in the kitchen and in the car, of course, back in the BB days, of course.
Of course.
Oh, wow. You do go back.
Of course
it
is.
You do go back a ways. So, my name is Ian Kane, and I'm a Massachusetts native. I grew up in Quincy, Massachusetts, went to the public schools there until I went to BC High. Graduated from Boston College in 2004, did a number of years in commercial real estate, spent some time acquiring and developing power plants in the Middle East, North Africa, and East Asia. We're based in Waltham, but we owned plants in emerging markets like Tunisia, Abu Dhabi, China, South Korea, Taiwan. Did an MBA at Duke, graduated 2013. Joined a technology company based in Cambridge that was spun out of MIT before running for city council in 2015, first winning. So I've been a sitting city councilor in Quincy, Massachusetts for 9 years now. I'm in my 5th term, and I'm currently the city council president. And in my day-to-day, I run a nonprofit that I started 5 years ago called Cubic Labs. And Cubic Labs is focused on bringing entrepreneurship and innovation south of Boston in order to create jobs and provide sort of economic diversification to the real estate growth activity in Quincy.
Okay, so if people want to get in touch with your campaign, where should they go?
CainForUs.com. That's CainForUs.com.
Okay, now I gotta ask you these questions.
Of course.
About
Why?
you look to me, as I read your campaign contributions and your voting record and all that sort of thing. To be honest, you look like a straw candidate.
A straw candidate?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, when did you re-register as a Republican?
This year.
Okay.
What,
Okay, so a straw, you call it a straw, a fraud, a plant, you name it, it's the same thing, but a straw candidate is more the official term for somebody that's, somebody, a bullshitter like Ian Cain, right? So how he calls them right out. Look, I'm looking at your contributions here. When did you become a Republican? Oh, this year.
what month?
In February, before I decided to run. And before that, I was unenrolled.
Okay. Were you thinking about running for the House, though, before against Lynch or for Lynch's seat?
No, I wasn't. There was no contemplation even. This was a very quick calculation to even step into this race. But I started off my voting life as a Republican, 18 to through college. I was brought up in a household bipartisan. Father's always a Democrat, mother a Republican. So, the values come to me sort of naturally. But in a place like Massachusetts, when I was first elected to office in Quincy in 2015, I thought my future depended on being a Democrat. So I registered as a Democrat and then unenrolled.
You're still.
Yeah, that statement right there, because he basically went for his so-called values of how he came up, because he wanted to advance his career. He wanted to do it as a Democrat. What do you think about
his political career? I think it's dishonest. I think it's extremely disingenuous. So, and this is a problem. So now what we've seen is a flip-flopper multiple times, specifically to try to achieve a win. So there's a couple of problems with it. Number one, he's been a council member now for 8 years or 9 years, whatever he said. He's a 5th term, so he doesn't believe in term limits. And he doesn't seem to see a problem with that. And then the other issue, obviously, is that he became a Democrat because he thought it would further his political objectives, which are what? So you're basically sacrificing your ideology and what you grew up. He's talking about what he grew up with and the values, but he's sacrificing his values in order to win political victories. Now, he said, well, you just registered. Well, this was a last minute thing. So why, the question is, why was it a last minute thing? Why was he so passionate about jumping in for this race right now? You see John Deaton running. You can read his career and his path. Why now? Why would you go from city council straight into the U.S. Senate and think that you have what it takes to take down Elizabeth Warren when you have an extremely strong candidate? Not to say you can't have a primary. I think primaries are very good. I think you'll vet the right candidate when you have multiple people, especially if you have quality people running in a primary election. I don't like having just one person anointed and everybody backing down, because when you have a debate, primary debates, that's when you really see the mettle of an individual, and you'll see what they have. But that being said, here you have an individual that is switching party affiliations to further his personal gains. There's a major issue there. John Deaton sacrificed for the XRP community and the crypto community at large, pro bono, for years, and you see what that guy is made of, and to see the types of entities he's willing to stand up against when he went up against the SEC and Gary Gensler, and now to make this huge decision for a John Deaton to go into politics to take on Elizabeth Warren. That's a major decision. It's not like you just wake up in the morning, you're like, yeah, I'm going to run for U.S. Senate. There's so much that goes into it. Think about your family, think about your future, but more than that, think about the people you're representing. Why are you the strongest candidate to run for the betterment of Massachusetts and the people? That's not a last minute decision. There's a lot of soul searching that has to go into it to say, I have exactly what it's going to take to represent these people, and I'm willing to sacrifice the next 6 years of my life to make that happen. I don't hear for that from Ian Kane. I hear, oh, it was just a last minute thing, and he's a flip flopper where he's willing to sacrifice his values, for the next big thing. That's scary. That's a really scary position to have a representative represent your own values, right? You don't want someone that's willing to go and flip flop like that.
Yeah, well said, Jeff. I mean,
Yep.
it does compromise his ideals 100%. And I'm really glad that Howie was asking the questions. And in this, we don't have time to play the whole thing, but he says some pretty rough stuff against John Deaton in this too. Like the critiques, and this is where Deaton is going to destroy him in a debate. But it also tells you that Ian Kane knows what he's up against. He puts a post out on X, and he gets people like me commenting on it, calling him out. This is your contributions, right? He puts hey, I was in so-and-so, we were hanging out with these people, and I was at this function. And then the XRP army comes in and destroys them. He has zero reposts or any sort of presence on, and then he had the recent endorsement by Cynthia Lummis, who is a lunkhead, endorses the Democrat, fake candidate running against Deaton. Meanwhile, John Deaton represented 76,000 XRP holders, and you have Cynthia Lummis throwing her endorsement behind this fraud Ian Kane. This is unbelievable. But again, a Bitcoin maxi, what would you expect? And then, she also, what she authored, Jeff, you and I broke it apart. It wasn't that wonderful, and it went nowhere, right?
Was horrible. Yeah,
it was horrific legislation. So somebody who wants to pretend that they know about digital assets and Bitcoin, it did exactly what you might expect them to do, to throw their support behind the entirely wrong candidate. Let's get back to this.
Still listed as a Democrat, as in the Quincy Democrat records, aren't you?
Well, I don't control their website, so that's
interesting.
He doesn't control their website. He doesn't control their website.
He's so weak. You can hear the weakness in his voice. It's interesting because he talks about his career, right, and buying all of this and the travel. I'm not hearing it in his voice. I mean, it's just. Obviously, it's just a little fragment, listen for a few minutes. But the way he's saying things, he just doesn't sound seasoned in any way, shape, or form, just from the tone of his voice and just how he responds. Well, I don't control their website. Well, how about that you're running for U.S. Senate and you put out a request for them to remove you from there because of, reasons like, look, I don't support your group anymore. I'm now a registered Republican. Please remove my name. And then he could have said, hey, I don't control their website. However, I've put in multiple requests to have it removed, and they refuse to do so. And we're dealing with that, behind the scenes. There you go. That's a strong power move. But instead, he was proud at one point to be on their website.
Well, yeah, it didn't bother him until somebody actually called him out on it, right?
Exactly.
But I'm saying people are going to be suspicious, aren't they?
Well, I'd be more suspicious of a person moving from Rhode Island to Massachusetts, not really taking credible residence, who was a Democrat up until last year. That's
so he has to go right. So he's asked about it, and he has to go out. He has to go after Deaton. He was a Democrat until last year, and he moved his residence. But John has, John's actually fought for people, and John lived there. He went to school there, right? So it's not like. And do we remember anybody named Hillary Clinton, who basically was in New York for a month before she ran for senator and won after they knocked off the Kennedy, and he just disappeared a plane one day. And the plane just went down out of nowhere, and that plane went down, and of course, she became a senator. But nobody had a problem with that, right? That was absolutely fine. But John Deaton has a long history of going to school, living there. So it's not like he just out of the blue said, I'm going to uproot and go to California and run for office. That's not how it happened.
John Deaton.
So I know. I understand.
Yeah,
I understand who it is. So what you're saying is that if you lack certain credentials as a traditional Republican over the course of the last few elections, then you're no different than Deaton. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I would charge you very differently. I'd say, you've been involved in the political scene for a very long time. I don't know the last time it's been exciting or people have at least provided a value proposition for truly joining the Republican Party, which is why I'm stepping in on my time to do so.
Oh, well, thank you.
Let's go over some of your contributions. So, I mean, I look at OCPF today, and you started contributing to the Republican committees in June, I think it was.
I don't even know if I don't think I've given to a Republican committee, but on the cusp of it, right? So imagine where I'm playing in politics, and you understand politics is about relationships. Never, we don't get many candidates that come through Quincy that are campaigning, that are doing fundraisers in Quincy, that are particularly aligned as we align ourselves to serve the people that we are elected to serve.
So now I saw someone's got a picture up. I don't think it's Deaton, as a matter of fact, but someone's got a picture of you posing with the fake Indian.
Mm-hmm. There is a picture out there, with me and Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, which
fake
that happens.
Indian.
I met a sitting U.S. senator as a newly elected city councilor.
So why shouldn't people be suspicious?
Why would I waste my time? This is an opportunity.
People get things for being a straw. You're
my
from
God,
Quincy, you know this.
Give me a break. We can get into Quincy stuff. That's fine. But why would
listen to the way he's reacting? Like a pansy. Why would I waste my time? I mean, why would I? He doesn't stand up. He can't defend his stuff. And you know what he sounds an awful lot like? A Democrat, because his feelings are coming out. His, what do we know about my feelings? This is how I feel. I waste my time. And God, I can't believe this. Oh my God, Jeff.
I waste my time being, put up to this by Elizabeth Warren. I don't know this woman outside of that picture that it was taken.
Ooh, doesn't have to.
How we just poked him right in the spot, like with the cattle prod, and
But the thing is, he doesn't have to know Elizabeth Warren to be put up by her people to do it. So it could be very easy for somebody else behind the scenes to come and say, hey, here's what's happening. Here's what we'd like you to do. We don't have an affiliation. We're not going to claim any affiliation with you. However, here's the situation. We'd like you to run against her, to try to upset the race with John Deaton. It would be a very simple conversation, and then he can deny that he has any relationship with Elizabeth Warren because maybe he doesn't. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened because who knows, if it did or didn't. But I'm sure Howie Carr or others, will find out more details. But from what I'm hearing, you can see the nefarious doings within politics when stuff like this happens. However, even that being said, as we move forward, we get into a debate, we go to the primaries in September. Does this guy even stand a chance, within the primaries? If you were to stack a Deaton up against him, and I'm sure in a debate, this guy, would just be absolutely devastated in a debate.
Yeah, I mean, because it wouldn't take long to get under his skin, and this is something you don't see anything with Deaton. Deaton is taking heat, hard questions, but he's not going to fold like this guy. But this is, I love how Cowie starts this off right out of the gate, just saying you look like a straw candidate. You look like a duck, smells like a duck, sounds like a duck. So tell me why you're not a duck, and he can't even come out with anything that's coherent. Hey, great that you grew up in a dual sort of a household. I get it, right? That happens often. I grew up in a household that was a Democratic household until Reagan came along, and then my parents were like, "Hey, it's all about Reagan," and that was the moment. We never really talked about politics in my house, but I can tell you to this day that my brother and my parents were all hardcore, conservative. We never really talked about it. It's just the way the genes show, right? Just how it was, right? So, and now they're very, they're very, defenders of it. Now we're very political, right? So it's kind of cool that they went from, they were Kennedy Democrats, right? And they saw, Jimmy Carter happen. And now Jimmy Carter was a great thing because it paved the way for somebody like a somebody like a Trump. But it's the same thing happened. I'm sorry, with the Reagan, right? So you had Carter, then Reagan happened, and I was saying during Barack, they're like, oh my God, we've swung so far over, we've oversteered, we've gone to the left, and I'm like, that's because the next president is going to be. It's going to be like the answer to Carter. We're going to get someone like that. And sure enough, Trump emerged, and we got exactly that. This is the way it is. The economy can't get better. It's going to be the way it is. It's a new economy. It's a new world. And meanwhile, he's like, does he have a magic wand? What does he have? A magic wand? He doesn't have a magic wand. Well, it turns out he did have a magic wand, and we had under 2% inflation, under $2 gas. Peace treaties signed. We had the Abraham Accords. We had peace in the Middle East, first time in 3,000 years, right? But discount that. We moved the embassy. That every president since I want to say Nixon said they were going to move the embassy in Israel. Trump's the only one that did it, right? And they said, "Oh my God, catastrophic." Trump put tariffs on China. Oh my God, you're going to be paying $4,000 for an iPhone. Turns out we were paying the same amount of money we're always paying, but they were paying those fees because they wanted to sell them, right? It's just ridiculous, Jeff. The whole thing. They needed the. And what happened as a result? Even the leftist company of Apple moved their manufacturing to India, a good portion of it, because India is a better country. It's more favorable, and India has, is much better all around. I mean, India is a powerhouse. India is the threat. I don't think China's a threat. China's a mess. Their banks are going under. They propped up their currency. We were talking about this earlier, Jeff. I was talking to myself earlier about it, but about BRICS. I'm like, every one of these countries in BRICS, the main 5 players, they're a disaster. All of them. It's a disaster. I'm like, their own country, but they can't even decide on shit in their own country, but they're going to get together and take down the US dollars. Okay, sure enough. Yeah,
and it's interesting, to talk China. China has a lot of internal issues, let alone, the single child issue, which they have a very old population. So as that population, gets to a certain point where you have one couple taking care of 6 people, maybe 7, because they have to take care of both sets of parents, plus they're taking care of a child, plus themselves. But there's a huge economic hardship placed on China. Plus, like you said, they've always played currency manipulation, always. There's never a time that they didn't, and, it's interesting because if you watch YouTube videos, people keep talking about a lot of products coming out of China and how great they are. Now, there are a handful of good, well-manufactured products in China. The majority of them are all duplicates, and they don't have quality. They pack them filled with features because they'll trick you with the features, but it's all about the longevity and the quality of the product, which in many cases just simply isn't there. But in some instances that has changed. I've worked with one manufacturer out of China that, their products, they were one of the innovators in the space, which is extremely unique. You don't see that with Chinese companies, and they probably have one of the best products in the world. But that you can probably count on one hand. The biggest problem with China is government intervention in every single one of those corporate entities. The government has a piece of every one of those companies, and if they do, you also have to be concerned about what those Chinese companies are doing through, or the Chinese Communist government is doing through those companies within the sovereign territory where these companies are actually distributing their products, like in the U.S., for instance. You have to be very cautious with all of that. With that being said, with this Ian, Kane, the words coming out of his mouth, he was definitely put on the spot, and maybe he didn't anticipate being put on the spot like this, by Howie Carr. But the optics of him getting into this race are very unusual.
Yeah, it's unusual, especially when you had somebody for the first time. And also too, so I will say this, that Charlie Baker, who was the governor there for Massachusetts, who was one of the most popular governors in Massachusetts history, was a Republican. And he is the one who's back. I mean, you want to talk about an endorsement about that matters in Massachusetts. He's behind his campaign. So Charlie Baker is advising, John Deaton. And, I suspect that we will see some endorsements that will matter. People, endorsements from people in Congress that actually authored bills that actually have done something in a positive way. So I suspect that'll be forthcoming, and not let someone like Alumnus, who doesn't even the statement she put out, from the border to crypto, this candidate knows what he's doing. Well, that's weird, because John Deaton visited the border, and John Deaton actually worked on the border, was stationed on the border, right? And so this is some woman who is completely out of her head, who lets her staffers control her life and feed her stuff about, she's about as nutty as any Democrat, but feeds them information about Bitcoin is, and then she gets on and she embarrasses on these interviews and embarrasses herself, doesn't even understand Bitcoin, let alone other digital assets. So anyway, let's jump back to this. We got a little bit off course here, Jeff, but it was a good one.
In 2016. And it's clearly apparent that she doesn't do a good job, which is why I'm stepping up to run for this position. This is a person that has been in the seat for 12 years. She has done nothing for our state. She's out of touch with Massachusetts and the voters. She passes none but one piece of legislation in 12 years. Because she's an ineffective legislator in the United States Senate, she has to overreach into her relationships in the executive office and deteriorate the power of the legislature through regulatory overreach. Right? This is a person that's not good for us.
Okay. Now, did you endorse Michelle Wu for mayor?
Howie is relentless. So Michelle Wu is the nut job. I was talking about the mayor of Boston, right? This is the one that sent out a Christmas party and only said not that white people couldn't attend it, right? I mean, she's Asian, but how racist can you be? And people, don't understand what the word racist means. Racist means, putting any other race in front of another race. That's what it means, contrary to what people want to make it mean. But that's what it means. So if you say this is a party for anybody except for white people, what? So, got a little bit of flack, but not as much as it should have. Because somebody who's Asian said that. But if it was a white person said everybody can attend except for Asians and blacks, you'd be like, what? So, racism is racism. Doesn't matter how you do it. So this is who he endorsed, right? And there's pictures of him on his X account.
I did. Yep. For a very particular reason.
Please tell us the very particular reason. Please enlighten us, Ian Kane, you fraud.
You like bike lanes.
No, it's not the bike lanes. In Quincy, we've been dealing with an issue about Long Island Bridge for a long time. That's been a dispute between Quincy and Boston. And so during the time when she was on the city council, she was the only sitting city councilor that was opposed to the reconstruction of the Long Island Bridge, which is a position that aligns with my position on the city council and those interests of the residents of Quincy.
So,
Jeff, weak sauce right there.
That's weak. That's extremely weak. So you endorse her because you align on one issue. That's, that's definite. If it's not a pay for play, then, what is that? Is there some sort of what did he gain, by that endorsement? We definitely need, to hear more about that, because it just something just doesn't, make sense. But the other thing is, he's talking about taking out, and he's right about, all the problems with Elizabeth Warren. Now, the one thing that's also true is that if he was to run as a Democrat, he would immediately be destroyed. He wouldn't even have a chance to take her on as a Democrat.
Right.
So whether she put him up as a straw, candidate, or if the party or supporters within the party said, hey, we need to take on Elizabeth Warren, but we definitely can't do it. And I don't know if they would do anything like that, or maybe more, centrist Democrats. I mean, it's crazy to even think, through this thought pattern, but imagine they're like, hey, maybe the fastest path is to put you, up against her as a Republican. Not to say that happened, but how do you take her on otherwise? The Democrats definitely can't take her out. She's too high profile, and your career would be over if you tried to take her on. I mean, it would be a major upset. But I don't know. Everything that he's talking about it just doesn't make sense, and it doesn't support the notion that he's always adhered to some sort of Republican value, even though, now he's switched to a Democrat, then he went to no party affiliation. Now he's supporting all these Democrat candidates. I want to hear that there was one Republican out there he supported, during all this time to show that even as a Democrat, he was somehow nonpartisan.
Good luck.
Even though in city council, that should be nonpartisan to begin with. But yeah.
Right, exactly. But I mean, city council is kind of a weak position too. It's like a
Right.
council member. It's like it's not, it's just a weak
You're,
position.
you're going to defend. I mean, what I'm saying is she's not really popular among Republican voters.
Oh, I'm very well aware. And I'm not here to provide a revisionist history. You're asking me questions about the past, which I'm answering you very directly.
You are.
And
you
so
are, and I appreciate
this isn't about deflection.
If I don't ask you this, people are going to say, why did you give him a free pass?
But no, of course, and that's fine. This is your show, and you're more, of course, you have all the rights to do that. But this is about ushering in the next generation of leadership. This is me going back to my roots. This is me finding an opportunity to help grow the Republican Party in Massachusetts, which is struggling. We're at 7 to 9% of the voting electorate in this state. And there hasn't been a pragmatic, practical, relational, identifiable person.
There has been. His name's John Deaton.
People into the party. And so, I'm making a deliberate decision here to participate as a Republican. And so I looked at the Democrats.
A deliberate decision
at a point in time where all of the elected seats
to participate as a Republican.
And I said, I don't like what's going on here.
I mean, you've contributed to a lot of the Democrats
during the time which I was an actual registered Democrat.
He just keeps, this. He's not even a good. He can't even position his choice. He goes, at the time that I was a Democrat, when I was pretending to be a Democrat, is what he wants us to know, because that was the only way that he could win in Massachusetts. But now he's going to take on arguably one of the strongest Democrat senators, who is one of the ones that has any say and gets anything done and has a direct, tie to the Oval Office. But he's the guy that's going to usher in the leadership, not John Deaton, who's actually done stuff, who actually stood up for XRP holders, who, if you read his book, Food Stamp Warrior, his humble beginnings to becoming something and always defending the underdog, right? Fighting for people, mesothelioma, going against the companies that Elizabeth Warren basically gave a pass to, where John Deaton was suing them on behalf of the victims. So this is like two different resumes here. Yeah, we went and bought power plants and we did this and we did that. And I founded a nonprofit. I don't know, man. I want to see more on this nonprofit he founded, right? This nonprofit sounds like a way to stuff your wallet with stuff. He sounds just like a freeloading guy. I don't know what he does. John Deaton's already made his career. He's already put forth his. He's already stood up for people. What's this guy done? I was a city council member, and then when I was a Democrat, I wanted to participate as a Democrat.
And when did you stop being a registered Democrat? I know that's when did you stop being your wife?
2019.
2019, you stopped being you re-registered as unenrolled.
Correct.
And of course, you don't have to be enrolled in any party to run in a municipal
race. Yeah,
in a municipal election.
Yeah.
So you contributed to Act Blue. That's kind of a way to funnel,
or the platform that I use, like I use now WinRed, running as a Republican. I use Act Blue for my contributions.
So who did you contribute to?
And we know about Act Blue. Act Blue is an organization. This was highlighted by James O'Keefe, and his organization went door to door and asked the people that were listed on their website as contributors. They would give a small amount every week. These people are like, I don't even know who that is. That's your name. This says your address. So they were putting money as contributors, this Act Blue, for people, hundreds of people that never made one contribution. It's a fraud organization. It's a Democrat organization. And he called them out on it. He said, well, you were using Act Blue. Well, that was when I was a Democrat, see? But now I'm a Republican, and now I use WinRed.
OneRed, exactly.
What a fraud.
When you were using Act Blue.
No, that's the platform that I used for my contributions.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you were okay. So you didn't. Okay, I thought you.
For his own. For his own contributions
too. Right?
No, I've never contributed to the Democratic State Committee. If there was an independent committee, I might have done, but I have never committed to the Democratic State Committee.
Sure.
Before.
Kim Driscoll.
Yes. Yeah. Again, relationships. Howie, this is
the lieutenant governor.
This is relationships. What I see now is where you're going, and where a lot of people go is people don't like the place that Maura Healey and Kim Driscoll have taken on the most important issue in what's the senatorial race, which is illegal immigration and the migrant issue. Okay. Number one issue. That wasn't on the ballot in 2022. That wasn't on the ballot in 2018.
It wasn't.
This is an
But
issue
Kim
that
Driscoll is the one who said everyone should take in illegal aliens into their house, and they didn't take any
well,
in.
and I don't
So-
agree with that. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous statement.
Then why would you endorse
know,
her?
But
Correct.
in
Or
any
give her
event,
money.
this is still the number 1 issue that requires a
Now-
federal-state partnership.
Now,
to be correct.
now it's the number
There's
one
been
issue.
no comprehensive
This
legislation
guy is
put forward
useless.
Useless.
at the
The
federal
guy,
level.
this guy
It's state
goes where the
no.
wind takes him. That's all it is. He's
Right.
blowing
Well-
with the wind. The guy's pathetic. I mean, everything that I've heard so far, and if other people haven't heard through it, and maybe the guy's got an amazing career path, previously, but everything that we've heard from him is, oh, I'm just blowing where the wind takes me. I made a deliberate decision to register Republican. It's all relationships. I don't support that. But that's okay because the immigration thing wasn't on the ballot, so I was okay to support her on it, even though she's the one that talked about open borders and being a and allowing illegals into the city and having people take them into their homes. I didn't agree with that, but I gave her money. I mean, there's the whole thing, based on what you're hearing from this, the guy doesn't seem to have any moral backbone, is what I'm hearing also. Because if he did, he would come out a lot stronger and say, hey, okay, that's what happened. Here's my stance. Here's my position. Here's what I believe in. Here's my ideology. Here, and start rattling that off. All I'm hearing is, him just responding in a very weak way to all of these accusations that are real, because these are all things that he did, but not in one of these scenarios has he stood up to actually explain, his position, explain what his passion is, explain what his ideology is, go into it with at least, something. Like when you hear John Deaton speak, it comes from his core, right? This guy comes from nothing. And even if nobody put him up to it and he just saw an opening opportunity, because he sounds like an opportunist, he doesn't sound like anything beyond that. He's looking at a fast track path to where Elizabeth Warren is in a very precarious position, especially in a 2024 election cycle. And maybe he saw that as an opening. I don't know. The guy doesn't seem, I mean, obviously there's just like this snippet just from listening to him and try to take a little bit out of this very, very brief interview. The guy could have his, the most passion ever as to why he switched to become a Republican. I'm not hearing it. I just don't hear what his reasons are for wanting to take out Elizabeth Warren and why he's the better candidate to do it. But more importantly, why he thinks he's going to be better suited at doing this than John Deaton. And that's what he should be cycling back to. It's like, hey,
Right.
yes, that happened, but here's my stance. Here's why I'm the best candidate. Yes, that happened, but here's why I'm the best candidate. That was then, this is now. Here's why I did it. It was a relationship, but here's why. And he's not explaining anything. Oh, it's relationships. So he's proving Carr's intent and his initial theme. Basically, the guy's a straw candidate, and then the guy's extremely self-serving. It's all about him. Has nothing to do with the people of Massachusetts. That's what it sounds like.
You know what else it sounds like, Jeff? You ever see, like, you remember, like, when there's a big presidential coming up there, so a senator, somebody would, everybody wanted to be a candidate. There's 16 when Trump ran in 2017, right? So there were like 16, 17 candidates, and it sounds like he wants to build his resume. So now he wants to put on his resume former Massachusetts governor, candidate. Right, former candidate for the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
Never, and I guarantee this is how he's gonna put it in his bio that he's the former Massachusetts candidate, Senate candidate, or something like along those lines. Sounds like like you said, he's an opportunist. And Exist Crypto says at least he remembers the Republicans and not Democrat. He can read his lines at least. So,
right. Well, Carr asked him. He said, "Didn't you want to run for Congress?" He goes, "No." So the answer to that is probably yes. There was probably some conversation over him running for Congress. Going from city council, even what John Deaton is doing is extremely difficult. We've seen candidates over the past couple election cycles, like Trump came from nothing, but the guy, obviously one of the most well-known names in the world. And you've had a couple other candidates that came from zero to victory. But that's extremely rare, I think, because typically, if you look at how politics used to work, people had to kind of build their resume up and have some sort of a background. It's like, okay, I'm going from nothing. All right, I'm going to try, I'll get involved. I'll try to go to city council, or if I have at least some exposure within the community, I'll go into state senate or the state house, try to go that path, gain some name recognition, do something for the state, then go to US Congress, and then potentially Senate. So that, but now you're right, he's building his resume in the because worst case for him, he loses, right? He loses the primary. The thing is, he can then, for Congress, it's every 2 years. So he can start building some momentum off of this. Senate's obviously every 6 years. So once John's in, then he's not going to run for Senate again for a while, but he will go to the U.S. House. And I think that's probably his game plan. It's like, hey, I have nothing to lose, everything to gain. He's gaining all of this notoriety right now, a lot of attention. And if he sticks with it with the Republican Party, he probably already has his eyes set on which U.S. House seat he's going to run for.
Well, I think he can take her out because she's not people don't like her. She cries and complains every day. She puts 5 things up that's wrong and everything should be fixed. But it's like, okay, well, it's like the straw man argument. It's like, well, that's your job. Our job is to complain about it. Your job is to fix it and author bills that fix it. But every day he's got to come down on some new company, some new thing. And, Deaton's called her out pretty heavily. That's
right.
It's, I just wanted to let me go ahead and stop this here. We heard enough of this blowhard. It was right to call him out though, because he is kind of a Decepticon. He's full of crap.
Decepticon.
You like that?
Decepticon.
He's a Decepticon. That's what he is. I wanted to pull up. John Deaton put out a really good post here. I want to go to his Twitter and see if I don't think we had it in the. Oh, look at this! This is funny. Here, look at Jeremy Hogan put this up. He said, in memoriam of SEC's theory that a digital asset somehow remains a security after the initial sale. Happy XRP days. Famous trials made history. There you go. Bam. There's Frank McClellan. There you go. Somehow XRP day. There you go. And then what do we have here? Let's go to John Deaton. I don't know what the heck's I mean. It's always funny when I search for his name. It's like you can never find him. You can find Ian Kane because he's. Here we go. I want to pull up this post because he went after. Let's see. It's great. You got people advocating, now doing videos talking about why they're voting for him. It's incredible to see that, and John just looks amazing. Look at this. He stands up, talks right to the camera, tells you exactly what he's going to do. Meanwhile, Ian Kane's out there being a self-promoter. It's ridiculous, man.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Warren's complete failure to take any action against the secure the border caused migrants to sleep in Logan Airport for months. Far too many migrants are sold fake promises from the cartels, and Senator Warren's open border policies fuel it. Senator Warren's failed leadership puts the burden on Massachusetts taxpayers so she can advance her extreme platform. That's what a leader says, right? I mean, voters across Massachusetts are sick and tired of partisan politics like Senator Warren. Absolutely no excuse for Warren's inability to put taxpayers' interests first and obtain complete funding for the Cape Cod bridges. Her extremism is putting lives at risk. And let's see. Senator Warren, the people of Massachusetts are coming for your seat. So this is a great tactic, right? When you start talking, it's not I'm winning. The people are winning. We are coming for your seat. This is a winning platform. It's what Barack Obama said, hope and change. Us, we are going to do this. It's what Trump said. We, the people, are going to do this. And when you have candidates talking about me, I, that doesn't play with voters. And then Jeff is gone, just like that. Bam, he was in here and then he's gone. So it doesn't play with voters on the larger scale. And then here's another example. You want an example of partisan politics? Look no further than the Cape Cod bridges. The Sagamore and Bourne bridges are federally owned, yet Massachusetts U.S. senators failed to secure the funding needed. Let's see. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Failed to secure the funding needed, putting the bridge at risk of collapse. Senator Warren is more focused on the Democratic Party at a national level than she is in the 222,000 year-round residents that live on Cape Cod. So there you have it. Doesn't care about that. Didn't get the funding, but she's out there yapping about this and that. And this is a really good call out because she does actually favor a national platform. It's like she's working on behalf of the Democrat Party, not on the behalf of the Massachusetts Commonwealth, right? The people that live in Massachusetts state. Well, screw them. But she's always talking about how I got a bill and I brought money home. Well, guess what? Every senator did. They put all that pork in every single one of them. Every single one of them got it put in there. So it's not like anything. It's not anything new. There you are. Back.
Internet went away.
That happens. But Jeff, he was calling out.
It's getting bright out.
He was calling her out for the Cape Cod bridges, Sagamore and Bourne bridges, federally owned, yet Massachusetts U.S. senator failed to secure the funding needed, putting the bridge at risk of collapse. This is a great call out. Warren is more focused on the Democrat Party on a national level than she is 222,000 year-round residents that live on Cape Cod. So again, another failure from this. She and herself is just a major grifter. I mean, no doubt about it. Oh, crap. I didn't mean to close that. Hey, when that happens, Jeff, what are you going to do?
Yep. That's how it goes.
That's how it goes. I closed the wrong one because there's one that I wanted to get to, and John's been putting a lot of good stuff out there. So let's just see I'm trying to get to the one that I thought was phenomenal. Yeah, so here's one right here. Here's another one. I keep finding these golden little nuggets here. This one here, Elizabeth Warren and I couldn't be more different. While she's at fundraisers, I'm meeting voters in Massachusetts. She's for special interest groups. I'm for the working middle class voters in Massachusetts ready for change. Come November, the Commonwealth will have a new U.S. senator. John's unstoppable, man. Look at this guy. Look at out there meeting people, talking to residents, saying hello. He was there for the parade. Love it, man. Absolutely love it. I'm the embodiment of the American dream. Here he is right here. From growing up in the inner city to running for the U.S. Senate, I fought hard to create a new life for myself and my family. This country gave me opportunities, and I refuse to sit back while politicians like Senator Warren destroy the American dream for future generations. The people of Massachusetts are ready for change. Here he is right there. I had a great time at the Swansea Veteran Cookout Steak Fry as we celebrated our country's Independence Day throughout the weekend. We must also celebrate our veterans and our military. Freedom isn't free. We are forever indebted to the courage and sacrifice of our liberties. This is what you don't see Ian Kane doing any of this, right?
None of it. He hasn't. At least he's not posting it.
House, man. He's left his house. Here it is. Boston's where it all began. From the Tea Party to the first battles of the Revolutionary War, freedom was born here. When people ask me what type of candidate I am, I always say I'm pro-freedom, and I promise you I will fight for your freedoms as your next senator. Strong stuff, Jeff.
And he's proven himself, just along those lines. So it's really impressive.
Yeah, he talks about here, Warren's failure to address our broken immigration system places the burden directly on taxpayers in Massachusetts. She voted against the bipartisan border bill. Clear that Senator Warren is more concerned with attending national fundraisers and political posturing than working out a solution for the migrant crisis. You deserve transparency and a senator who solved this crisis. Thank you to the bipartisan group of senators for demanding accountability. Time for change. It's great, man. It's just up and down. Here, voters around the Commonwealth are ready for change, Republicans, Democrats. Here's this gentleman who's endorsing John Deaton. So you see a lot of this on there. Here's the parade, and you see this right here. I'll put this up. We don't need to watch the volume, but there he is right there, John Deaton. See him walking around. You see people carrying signs. Deaton for Senate. There he is out there meeting folks, talking to them, shaking hands. There's a lot of enthusiasm for him too. People don't like Elizabeth Warren. She's a grifter.
Right.
She's a nut, right? Who represented the big banks, who said, I'm going to go fix the banks. Now she's like trying to be strong again. I'm going to come after the banks again. Wink, wink.
So
This is
it's amazing.
This is him doing a little bit of an interview here and asking him about like you're Republican and talking about this and
Mhm.
that. So it's anyway, we kind of ran a little long. It was important to run long. Jeff was able to join us, which was awesome.
I'm glad I made it on.
Sounds
Sorry
like
we
your
started late.
voice is a little bit better, and that's good. And a series of like, I was running late today because of because of my buddy, talking to him and going for emergency surgery. Then you not making it. So I was like, the show must go on. Damn it! And the show went
That's
on.
right. I'm glad you stayed persistent.
And what's great? I had to do it, man. Usually I'm the other one. I'm like, there's no show. I'm going. But I was like, no, man. I was fired up because of XRP's 1 year anniversary of first anniversary of not being a security. I also want to call out 2 OGs that really kind of stepped up and made some heavy contributions to the show, not only with your comments, but with your support over the years. And that's none other than Rough Rican, first anniversary of XRP's. Congratulations to everyone hodling XRP. And El Hefe coming in strong here. El Hefe was big old support. Trump for crypto. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody here for supporting this channel. And yeah, do we have 300,000 subscribers? No, we have you guys, and that's way more important. It's important to have people that are the smartest people in all of crypto. What do you want to say, Jeff, to that?
No, this is great. I'm looking at some of the comments in the over here. Some really great comments. Really great comments that I'm seeing here. John Page said, compared to the rest of the world, the U.S. looks pretty dismal. Your government is a joke, and
it is.
Unfortunately, it's exactly that right now. But that's where it all changes as well. The whole world has seen our weakness on a global stage, whether it was in a debate or on the global stage at NATO. But all that's going to change, and the inner workings of government are at play. The power struggles are at play. You'll see it right down to what we just talked about today with Ian Kane and John Deaton. There's always a power struggle. There's always a better candidate. There's a candidate that believes in freedom. The trend right now in the U.S. has gained phenomenal momentum. The last 3.5 years had to happen. As bad as it is to say, the last 3.5 years with what's transpired, even though we came out of 8 years of apologies on a global stage,
8 years,
the U.S. still hadn't woken up, right? And then we had 4 years of Trump. Now we've had 3.5 years of who knows what. But this who knows what, which has brought us to the brink, had to happen, because the outcome of all of this is that people in this country are passionate about this country. The majority will in this country believe in freedom. They believe in American exceptionalism. Just like if we go and we're in Australia, I would say that a majority of the people there believe in Australian exceptionalism. They won't continue at some point to put up with the overreach of government. Canada, I believe, is the same way. At some point, the Canadians are going to step up. France, we saw people stepping up. We've seen there's a lot of turmoil and transition going on within the French government, and you can see all of the different political ideologies at work right now, from the centrists to the freedom-loving conservatives to the leftist communists, and there's a power struggle there. We've seen England being overridden by the leftists, but yet I know there's patriots in England that will at some point down the road will stand up again to fight back. This country is where it all begins, because if the U.S. falls to exactly what John was talking about, the joke that we are onto the world, when that changes, we will again be the beacon of freedom, of the free world. And that has to happen, because without it, chaos will reign in the world. And it's not being U.S. centric. It's being a realist based on history. We need what's going to come out, from this. And we need another 4 years of Trump. We need to get rid of the chaos. There is nobody that's going to replace the leftists in this country. We can't have another 4 years of what we just experienced. But the 4 years we had was needed, because it's woken people up across the board. And we're going to be a melting pot once again of all ideas, of all backgrounds, but we won't tolerate illegal entry into this country either. And we're not going to tolerate the invasion like we've seen in Sweden and other parts of Europe, that just outright invasion that will topple governments and topple the free world, that it cannot be tolerated whatsoever. So that's the one, Chip, the one beacon of hope that comes out of all of this, is that good things are on the horizon. And, we're witnessing, that turn of events right now. And if we go down to a candidate like a John Deaton, you can see the passion and the desire, to support the people. It's about the people, and it's about the freedom for the people. That's what it's all about. Ian Kane doesn't represent that, but John Deaton does. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I got a big. I have this video dedication. This video dedication goes out to our pal John Page over here, who made a very astute comment right here. Compared to the rest of the world, you look dismal. You're a joke. I give you this. I want to replay this in case you guys missed it. But this is the difference between how a leader handles a situation and how a woke nut job losing his mind, dementia patient handles it, and withdrawals from Afghanistan and the other leaders' idea of how the withdrawal would go. But here we go.
It's my number one favorite of all time. When we were negotiating with the Taliban, while President Trump was still
He's talking about his favorite story of Trump of all time. So he's talking about the negotiation. Let me put back. I think it was.
It's my number one favorite of all time. When we were negotiating with the Taliban, while President Trump was still the president, President Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan, but he wanted a conditions-based withdrawal, meaning that you do what we tell you to do, and then we will start pulling troops back slowly as long as you abide by our rules. It's President Trump and Mike Pompeo, and they are talking to Taliban leadership in the room, and they had one translator in the room. President Trump looked at the Taliban leader and said this: I want to leave Afghanistan, but it's going to be a conditions-based withdrawal. And translator translated. And he said, if you harm a hair on a single American, I'm going to kill you. And the translator goes, and Trump goes, tell him.
Yes.
Tell him what I said. Tell him what I said. Reached in his pocket, pulled out a satellite photo of the leader of the Taliban's home and handed it to him.
Shut up.
Got up and walked out the room.
I rest my case. I feel badassery in motion right there, the way it works, and that's how you do it, right? Peace through strength. Show the strength. Never go to battle. No wars, no conflicts under Trump. No, nothing new, right? We had the Abraham Accords. We had peace. Everybody can shove it right up their ass for all the stuff that they talk about. I don't care if you don't like the guy. I don't care if you think he's mean. I don't care if you think he puts people down and name calls them. It's all about policy. And go back and review your history and look at how they treated Churchill after he was one of the guys that stood up and rolled the U.S. single-handedly, almost defended against the Nazis, and they destroyed that man when he got out of office. The leftists, the communists destroyed him. I mean, it was the most unappreciative thing. You look at the articles written about him; it's horrific. The guy who stood up and saved it, but they didn't like him, and he was a womanizer, and he was smoked cigars, and he was a meat eater, and he was this and that, right? He was everything wrong. Meanwhile, the guy stood up because, like what you said before, Jeff, he stood up with conviction on his ideals and said, if I die, I die. That's it. Give me freedom or give me death. That was it. So anyway, gosh, we went on for an hour.
Strong.
We haven't done that in a while.
That's amazing.
We haven't done that in a while. Kelly Slade says XRP just hit 52 cents on BitTrue. Keep going. I'm patient. Some people bought in at 49 cents.
There we go.
Pushed me, and I changed along in printing since 6 p.m. yesterday. I also bought Floki's local battle, the entire self-worth off the amount of crypto I own, and I ain't effing kidding. Well, good for you. Excellent. John Page, LOL. That's scary that Sleepy Joe is the big boss and one shaky hand on the button. He doesn't have a hand on the button, I'm pretty sure. He doesn't even have a hand on handle on what's going on, so don't worry about it. He doesn't know. He's not making any. He's not even running anything. He hasn't been for the whole 3 years, and they try to keep it secret. But there's a reason that they trotted out this earliest debate in history of the U.S. in June. Yep. This was all coordinated by the left, and all of a sudden, oh my God, that's a horrible debate. They were all given the memo to say, like, we're putting Joe up. He's going to fall. He's going to crumble. And then, you know what, Joe? You can do a press conference. Go out there and show him, buddy. You can do it. First thing he says, first question, they ask about Kamala Harris, and would she be able to carry the ticket if he wasn't up to it? Well, of course. That's why I hired her, because that's why I hired Vice President Trump. What? Said wrong name. Oopsie. It's just,
yeah, he's up there again on the global stage to do this press conference. He says that, then he introduces Zelensky as Putin, and I get it. You know, you're in a meeting someplace, you know, and you're busy and you slip up. You're thinking about a couple different things, but you're the president of the free world, talking to a world leader whose country is at war with another, and you call him the other leader's name. You don't do that. I don't care what slip up you have, what your brain mindset is like. That is just a no-go, especially right after you call Harris Vice President Trump. And then he says that, and then he had a whole bunch of other, you know, major issues.
anyway.
It's a really sad state of affairs right now, you know, based on what we're seeing. And, you know, it's going to come to an end.
Yeah,
And
well,
it's going to end with.
Trump has slipped up and said the wrong name. He said something when he meant Pelosi, and he said somebody. Look, this does happen, right? You do, but it doesn't happen on a scale of Joe Biden, right? There's a scale of, you know, normalcy, and then there's a scale of Joe Biden exceeding the 10 mark every single time. And like it used to be, like you'd love when a politician make a gaffe and stick their foot in their mouth. It's hourly. It's like minute by minute with Joe Biden. It's not like, it's like the gaffe. You have to reset. Like it's always 0 days till the next gaffe of Joe Biden, because he never gets past the day where he's in public, and, you know, and they're like, he's not after 8 p.m. And, you know, Ducey asked the press secretary, well, what happens if something goes down? Who are we supposed to call? Like, who's running the country?
That's right.
You have a team? Well, great. That's reassuring. We saw the interns that in the White House that write all his social media. He called tonight. He said Trump is a loser. Okay. So that's different from Trump. How Trump calls people losers. He calls it, but Trump's the mean guy. Mean guy Trump. Oh, let's see somebody get throat punched 24/7, nonstop.
Yep.
Every network, every newspaper, everywhere, every world, you know, media, nonstop on Trump. Meanwhile, they asked Joe, would you like to go for ice cream? Goody, ice cream. Well, anyway.
But right from the beginning, he even said that he wants to take him out back and beat him up. The others were always talking about violence. Get in their face. Bring it to them. It doesn't matter where they are. Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, all of them. Get in their face. So they were calling for violence, you know, a couple of years ago. They created that whole summer of love, you know, where the cities were burning. That was strictly on the heads of each one of those congressional representatives, leaders in the DNC. Biden was no different when he kept talking about how he wanted to beat up, that he was going to punch him, and how he wanted to beat him up. Yeah, all they did was talk violence. They're so pent up with rage and violent thought, you know, and then they try to hide behind these idyllic words. But, you know, it's the truth comes out, you know, and now the truth is definitely 100%, you know, revealed itself, you know. But here's an individual also. I mean, you look back, you know, through the history of a Biden, and the guy, you know, cheated in law school, plagiarized in his congressional campaign, had to drop out of a presidential campaign because of plagiarism. And it was the media was a big embarrassment. And he had to withdraw his presidential campaign because of plagiarism, because of lying. And yet, you know, people are going to say, no, you know, the guy's has had a great career. No, he lied his whole career. Just like, you know, what's her name? Elizabeth Warren, you know, Pocahontas. She too has lied her whole career, you know. So how many more of them have also made up stories, you know, and have been planted there, and then they're supported, and then they're corrupting the system and enriching themselves? Like Nancy Pelosi, how many hundreds of millions of dollars has she made through insider trading? You know, each and every one of them. How is it that Maxine Waters was blowing kisses to Sam Bankman-Fried Why did the SEC love him so much? Why did the Democrats love him so much? Why did they choose right? And why did they choose him over all the other crypto companies, the brand new company to the block? He's the one that they chose. You know, and you don't have to really think too much into, to realize, the corruptive nature, and the direction things are going, even to now. Like, we're just, why is it that they're leaving this guy there? Why are they putting him out front and center? Because they want options, but they also don't want Harris, because Harris is a disaster, right? Harris is, so they put her there as a safety net because they knew that people wouldn't want to take him out. So now we're in a constitutional crisis, as far as I'm concerned, from more than one reason. Also because of the outcome of the 2020 election. That was the beginning of it. But Chip, here we are, getting ready to move on to bigger and better things.
Here we are. Kelly Slade says, I wish Trump would pick Byron Donalds as his running mate. And remember, we had Byron Donalds on.
That would have been awesome.
Jeff and I said we nominate him to be this is last year. This is last Labor Day, I believe it was, when he was on. And we said, we nominate you to be the vice president. He goes, oh, be careful. Don't get me in trouble now. And I was like, so, yeah. And so I really hope he does pick Byron Donalds too. I think he would be an absolute, because you want a guy that can be president, right? You want a guy that can step into the president's shoes, and Byron Donalds can do 2 terms and be a phenomenal president. He is, in every shape of the word, just fitting. Right. And it's great to see other candidates. Vivek Ramaswamy is another guy who is, so much greatness came out of there. And they go like, there's so many people on the Democrat side that could step into it. Gavin Newsom, who arguably has the worst run state in the entire country, who's destroyed that state. They so much so that they got a recount vote against him, that people hate him so much, but he's the guy, right? Or how about the most hated governor, even between, it's hard to say between Newsom, but the governor of Michigan, Jeff. What's her name?
She's Whitmer.
She's another nut job. And she just passed a bill that will not allow a contested election. You are not allowed to audit unless who is it? The lieutenant governor or somebody else allows it? Well, no, the Democrats. She basically said, if the Democrats allow it, they won't do it. So you imagine passing a bill that says you can't contest, you can't audit an election. If that's not pre-foreshadowing, I don't know what is. That means I just admitted that you just stole the last election, is what that's all about.
That's right. Exactly.
It is a mess, man. But anyway, guys, we do have to get out of here. President Putin, that's right. President Putin. Trump at a Bitcoin conference in Nashville in 2 weeks. There's going to be great sound bites out of that. Listen, man, you can't stop this train. You're not going to be able to manufacture the votes this time. It's not going to happen. A lot of laws were changed. Georgia changed its laws. You had Pennsylvania change theirs. You cannot have the mass fraud. We knew who won in Florida, Jeff, in 2020. We knew who the governor was. We knew who won. But you know what? We didn't know in Detroit. All the swing states, they took 3-4 weeks to manufacture votes to be able to do that. So why did it take 3 weeks?
Exactly.
3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Doesn't take that long.
Right. On the night of the 3rd, we went to bed at 10:30, 11 o'clock when they stopped the counting, and Trump was ahead 6-7 points, up by so far. But all of the remaining votes for the next 3 weeks were 98% Biden. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm not a mathematician, but the statistics don't even make sense. You can't have 99% of the vote go towards the other guy when you stop the voting. It's just not humanly possible. I don't care if Barack was running and he won in a pretty sizable amount against when he defeated Kerry, when he defeated Kane, right? It doesn't matter. That wouldn't have been possible there. There's no election in history where, okay, well, the remaining 90% of the votes went to the guy who was down and losing. Yeah, okay.
Well, plus, look up what are the total number of registered voters in this country.
Well, there you go. It doesn't match the actual.
Right. So what did you have? Like 80 million plus 70. So let's say you had close to 160 million people voted, and the I forget exactly what the total registered number is, but the claim would then be, I believe it's pretty much on par. I think it's very close. Whatever the total outcome was very close to the actual number of registered voters. And never in history, if you look at most election cycles, what is it, like 60%, 70% vote?
You're right. 160 in 2022, there were 161, and well, also we had in Wisconsin, you had 120% in districts voting. That means That means every possible voter voted plus 20% additional, which is impossible. So
It's never happened, ever.
the whole idea of there wasn't any fraud, man, it's so overwhelmingly obvious. And do you think for a moment that Joe Biden, who was a clunky old man and dumber than rocks when he was a vice president, do you think he got more votes than Barack Obama? Seriously? Barack Obama was a gifted speaker. Barack Obama had charisma. You know, he had a way of speaking that people liked to listen to him. And meanwhile, Joe was out there talking. There were 7 circles on the ground, and somebody stood in each circle, and he had a conversation. He goes now. He's supposed to be the guy that defeated Trump, the most popular president. He can't even fill up a high school gym. They close it off and they push all the people in the corner, and they make it look like, look at the crowd that's here. It's a joke. He puts out a post on X. 90% of it is telling him to go. You know, let's go, Brandon. Right. Essentially, Warren puts it out. Where's the support? Every once in a while, 1 out of every 10 or 15 posts and comments, you'll see, yeah, exactly, Elizabeth Warren, yay. You know, where's the support? Where's all the support for these people? You're telling me they're the most popular people. Warren's going down. Deaton's defeating her. And when he goes and wins the primary, and then he goes up against her, she's going to be scared to debate him because he'll destroy her. He'll rip her up.
That's
Jeff,
right.
we're going for an hour now. We're at 1 minute. We're at 1 hour 50 right here, and you joined like halfway through the show. So it was so funny. You went on a tirade about Europe and the what happened in France and everything. I went on a tirade like at the beginning of the show on that. By the way.
Oh, did you? Oh.
It was almost the same thing. We got to like take your clip and my clip and put them together. I think I added the Netherlands, but I talked about I think I mentioned Sweden in there, but I talked about the Tories and how. They over here they be called Democrats, and now the Labor is left of them, the extreme left party. So yeah, we went on a similar tirade, and you didn't even know that I went on it. So I was
That's
like,
funny.
I was just letting you go. Show your ID, get a paper ballot, put your signature and fingerprint, or use the blockchain for voting. Scott E, right on, dude. That is right on. Jim D shows up an hour and 50 into the show. Holy cow! Your mom says we're back, baby, to the moon. Look at the Joe. Shelley Slade, because
That's
Gary
awesome.
and Elizabeth are friends with his parents. That's right, friends with Sam Bankman-Fried's parents. That was the post that I was looking for Elizabeth Warren, how she was using his friends of his father. That I couldn't, for some reason, I couldn't find that one. That's okay. We'll give you a pass. Yeah, you can't make it. It was a kind of a disaster this morning. We didn't go live until 8:30 or 8:31 or something like that, but it happens.
Scotty said tag team tirade.
Haven Pack, when I was in the military, you would see bags and bags of absent ballots that never counted every election, but the active leadership always covered it up. Interesting. How about that? I'm not surprised. It is sad to hear it from directly from the horse's mouth, though. It's good to get confirmation on that. There is that tag team tirade. Yeah, it was a tag team tirade. This is good. I was saying at the beginning of the show, Jeff and I are like lockstep. And I was telling somebody this, like they said, well, how did you end up doing a podcast with Jeff? And I was telling them, well, when we were doing that video for Congress, we realized that we agreed on everything. Like we should do this. Yeah, we can't have this. We should do this. I'm like, dude, why aren't we like doing a podcast together? We're like lockstep. It seems like there's a lot more synergy. Instead of us, putting our efforts into each one of us making a video, it just was much easier to combine and do this. And it's hard to carry the show. The banter is what I love about doing the show. Is like when you do it yourself, you're just sitting there talking to your computer, and it's a real weird thing. You can't have any break in the conversation. You got to fill every single second, otherwise it feels like something's wrong. It's like, wait, is there something wrong with my audio? You get a big old, sort of a, and it's weird because you just got to stop. You talk nonstop when you're doing it yourself, and that's a lot. Prediction, guys. We see Judge Torres ruling by 7:31. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I think it might make the summer, because when summer officially ends in September, I still think we'll make the summer timeline, but I don't know. Judge Torres didn't do so well in the hearing when they caught her on her wokeness, which is shocking that she ruled the way she did in this, because she was a disaster in that hearing, Jeff. It was like,
it was really bad.
Oh my God, that was horrific. The answer she was given, she couldn't defend any of it. It was bad.
Yeah, so you got to wonder what the outcomes are going to be here, but she's very set on this decision. So at least there's a positive lining there, but come 2024, the election, we're not that far away now. We're talking about November. So things won't really change until January, but at least there'll be some momentum. Maybe we can predict that Gary Gensler resigns in December.
I don't see him to resign in. Jeff,
Maybe to coincide with the dropping of the original lawsuit.
Well, let's end this show on a positive note. We showed all the Howie Carr stuff when he was taking him down. Now let's play a clip with John Deaton on the Howie Carr show.
There we go.
And then we'll end it. We'll get out of here. I'm going to go. It'll be like a cold open. We're going to go right from here out. So
You went to the border. What did you say?
I was shocked. And I saw the problem here, and I wanted to get to the root of it. And interestingly, 25 years ago, Howie, I was at Yuma, Arizona in the Marine Corps, and there's a picture of me because I was involved in drug bust. I was the chief prosecutor for the base, and the cartel was using young Marines, to be mules right through the border. And I was shocked that 25 years later that it is so far worse. And let me tell you what I learned. I learned that 50% of the fentanyl that makes its way into the Commonwealth is coming from the Yuma crossing alone. I learned that they have literal bus stops, right? I call them bus stops, but there's these locations where the migrants come and they don't run. They wait, and a van picks them up and takes them to the processing center. And Howie, they're released within 24 to 30 hours. And you want to know what court date they're given? 2032.
Well, it's like this guy, this rapist in Queens.
Yeah, it's insane. And when you see, I learned that when you count getaways, 12 million illegal migrants have crossed the border. 12 million. So even if you say the vast majority, you can take a number as 99%. 99% are people who just want a better life. At 12 million, 1 out of 100 is 120,000 bad guys crossing the border. It's a national security crisis. And when you leave the border, Howie, and you see what's happening, it's hard not to walk away thinking that it's intentional, because it's shocking. It's shocking.
And there you have it. We end on a good note. John Deaton, go John Deaton. Take down the grifter Elizabeth Warren. Take her out. Take out the fake Indian. Take her out strong and hard. That's all the time we got, guys.
That's all we got.
We'll see you tomorrow night, hopefully. See you guys on the next one, which should be tomorrow night if all things go well. Chip and Jeff out as soon as I can find Jeff on everything's a disaster today. Go.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.